this episode of Beer to Whiskey. On my mission to spread the gospel of good taste, today I find myself in Kalispell, Montana. I'm at the Kalispell Brewing Company, and we're going to learn a little bit about their beer and how they got started here, all those neat things. With me today, to my immediate left, is a buddy of mine of 50 years, Wrangler Rick Fowler. And he's been helping me out immensely on this shoot, so I have to give him a little credit, and, you know, okay, because I'm not paying him. So, to Rick's left is Maggie Doherty. She is, well, one of the owners, along with her husband, Cole Schneider, and he serves the role of head brewer. And thanks a lot for inviting us. We're pretty excited to be here. I'm kind of stoked about it. Maggie, why don't you tell us a little bit about how the brewery got started? What brought this on?
Well, first of all, Cole and I met in 2010, and we discovered two things about each other immediately. One was a love of beer and a love of skiing. And then we quickly found ourselves in need of jobs. So I actually had started working in breweries when I was in high school back in northern Michigan as a waitress. So craft beer has kind of always been a part of my personal kind of development, especially working in food and beverage for most of my life. Cole was what I like to call a home brewer on steroids. So we had to figure out how to stop ski racing and start to hopefully make money. So, what doesn't make money but starting a small brewery. Oh wait, haven't made money yet. But in 2012, we purchased this site. It had been, it's over 100-year-old building. It was built in 1915, originally as a blacksmith shop. It had been vacant since about the economic crash, about 2008, and we decided it'd be the perfect venue to have our brewery and tap room right here on Main Street in downtown Kalispell. And then it took us a long 2 years of renovation before we opened our doors in June of 2014.
Wow, a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
That's sweat equity.
The building was a little bit more disrepair than we originally thought. So we did our best to preserve the historical integrity, because it was also a very famous car dealership for a number of years. But there was a lot of structural work that went in, so it was a big labor of love. But
It turned out great.
Thank you.
Yeah,
It really did. Rooftop bar and vault and everything.
Yeah, it's been pretty awesome.
So Cole, you started out making beer in your kitchen, apparently.
Pretty much, yeah.
And so what made you think at some point that this was the way to go?
It wasn't like a light bulb just turned on in my head one day and I thought, oh, I'm going to start a brewery. But I really, really grew to love sort of the craft of homebrewing. And unlike a lot of homebrewers, I liked kind of perfecting recipes rather than constantly experimenting. And I got pretty good at, consistently brewing from one batch to the next, very consistent beer. And that sort of made me think, maybe I could do this on a commercial scale. I'm pretty meticulous, maybe a little OCD, but in a good way. You kind of have to be if you want to be a brewer.
Right.
So, gradually over the course of 10 odd years I spent homebrewing, I sort of came to this conclusion that I really wanted to do this for a living, and I thought that I might actually even be a little good at it. Who knows?
What was the first? This is a two-part question.
Okay.
The first part is, what was the first beer you ever brewed at home? And the second part is, what was the first beer you ever brewed here?
Oh, okay, great question. So the first beer I ever brewed at home, I brewed in college with a friend. It was a brown ale of some sort, and it was infected and awful. And I clearly am a very stubborn person. I did not give up after that. The second batch of beer I brewed with the same friend was a Belgian double, and it turned out absolutely amazing. It was like better than some commercial examples I could think of, and that actually, gave me a little bit of hope that maybe I could do something with home brewing as a hobby. The first batch of beer that we brewed at the brewery was a German Dunkel, so a dark lager. And, it was not the first time we had run the brew house. Clearly we've been doing water tests for months, and including one test with grain to calibrate our extract. But it was kind of amazing to actually get a chance to put some hops in the work once we started boiling.
It was a long.
Yeah, it also
first
took
brew
like,
day.
it took 12 hours instead of 10
Yeah.
for, granted it's a triple decoction, so it takes a very long time to mash that beer. But it took a lot longer than it does nowadays for us to do that same beer.
Without getting too deep in the weeds, explain triple decoction.
Okay, so once upon a time malt wasn't very well modified, and there was kind of a trick to get around that in Germany and continental Europe. Basically that involved when you mash in a beer, normally you just steep the grain and the crushed grain, I should say, in hot water, and it turns starch into sugar. What they would do is they'd actually take a portion of that grain and they would boil it, that mixture of grain and water, the mash. They would boil it and then return it to the main mash, and it would raise the temperature. And it would also cause starch granules to burst open, and it could kind of bypass core modification of the malt house. Nowadays, malt is very, very well modified, and it's completely unnecessary to do that, at least to properly extract the sugar from the starch. But one of the byproducts of that is the Maillard reaction. So the same chemical reaction you see when you brown toast, brown a steak, other things that taste really good. You
Right.
see that when you boil malt. And so in this case, it makes the beer taste a lot maltier. You get a lot of malty notes that you simply can't get by using specialty malts. So in a beer like this, yes, it's bready, but you also got just that slight tang of melanoidins, the chemical compound produced by that decoction mash. And we really, really stand by the decoction mashing process to produce what I think is a superior tasting beer.
That's spoken like a chemistry major. Did you have a chemistry or bio background?
Prior to doing this, I worked in family business, which is basically industrial chemistry. So I got a little bit of a on-the-job training in that regard. But no, I don't have a chemistry background from college or anything like that.
He actually is what we call our absolute Renaissance man, because he has a degree in medieval English literature, but he's also our in-house mad scientist. So he has both sides of the brain.
I'm just curious, and this is going to take us off the rails a little bit, but what did you think you were going to do with that degree?
Go back to school and find something else to do. I did.
You're not alone in that.
Yeah.
We've been there, done that.
Well, it reminds me of the joke about, physicists ask how something, or why something works. Engineers ask how something works, and liberal arts majors ask, do you want fries with that?
That's about right.
Yeah, yeah.
We're liberal.
Oh, okay, yeah, and I have an English degree too, so you end up starting a brewery.
Yeah.
That's what you
That's
do.
funny.
Yeah.
Maggie, you were telling us a little bit earlier that y'all were competitive skiers and kind of met doing that, but then you also spent some time in Europe. So, there's a European influence to what you're doing with your brewing process.
Yeah.
We were so fortunate to represent the United States in World Cup racing, and got to go over to Germany, Austria, Norway, and probably we could have been maybe a little bit more competitive focused, but Cole and I really also wanted the full cultural experience. So of course we had to check out a number of breweries, and that those experiences, especially in Germany and Austria, that real pub house feel, community centered, obviously their focus on decoction brewing and lagers really helped influence and inform us of the brewery that we wanted here, because we feel there's one thing that was lacking in Kalispell until we opened is Kalispell actually hadn't had a downtown craft brewery since the 50s, and we just feel like breweries are such a community place, and I like to think of beer as kind of the every man, every woman, every person's drink, and a lot of good things can happen, and we just felt that pull when we were over ski racing and drinking, and so it definitely has influenced what we brew and what we drink here and what we brought to Kalispell.
I think it's a great concept too, because it differentiates you all. And I went to Germany after I finished grad school, and I remember we went out into the country. Every little town has kind of a brewery, and we had a group of folks. We had Jaeger Schnitzel and a great Pilsner, and this is many, many years later, and I still remember that it was, you know, kind of leaves an impression.
Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah. I feel like I start getting very, very hungry. But if you do go back, I have to recommend, if you go to Bavaria, a traditional Bavarian style breakfast is Weisswurst, which is a fresh veal sausage served with a wheat beer and a pretzel. And that's breakfast, and it is phenomenal. It's one of my favorite meals on the planet.
It sounds like one of those 3 in the morning kind of breakfasts that you have after a long night out.
It could be, but you know, at 10 in the morning, it's quite delicious. It's something, if you get to go over to Munich or Bavaria, it's worth doing for any beer lover.
That's a great recommendation.
Yeah.
So was your first introduction to kind of craft style beers, or was there something over here that you had kind of gotten turned on to?
I've been drinking beer probably much longer than my parents would like to know about. I had cousins that went to school on the East Coast, and in Michigan they would bring back cases of Sam Adams, and even my parents got excited. So I started as a younger child noticing when people got excited about certain beers. And then I did work for a brewery when I was 16, a small little tap room with a pub in my hometown. Their cool thing that they did is our town had a curfew siren at 10 p.m. And so they had the 10 p.m. ale. Your kids are in bed, now come drink.
What a great idea.
Yeah, and it was just down the hill from my house, so my mom would walk down and, you know, have her beer while I was, you know, washing dishes or whatnot. So beer has kind of been part of, I feel like, my young education. I have a brother that's a chef as well, so we've both kind of been in the beer family, so that's my story of craft.
Cole?
Yeah, you know, it was not on my radar until I went off to college. I went to school in Madison, Wisconsin. There are currently a lot of good breweries in Madison. There were a lot of good breweries a decade plus ago when I was going to school there.
Sure.
It sort of opened my eyes. You know, obviously Glarus is not very far away, and then there are a couple of good breweries in Madison as well. And it was sort of an eye-opener that there was more than just mass market swill available to drink. And that, at least in part, sort of fueled my interest in this idea of home brewing in college too.
So when you're somewhere, when you're out somewhere, if you ever have time to go out, I don't know, because you've got a two.
We do. We have a 2-year-old son, so we don't go out anymore.
But we'll pretend. So you're out somewhere and you can't get one of your beers. What beer do you drink when you're out?
Ideally, something I haven't had before. If not that, boy. If we're in the state of Montana, probably something from Montana. There are a lot of good breweries here.
Right.
Certainly, I think ours is pretty good, but there are a lot of other really good ones that we'd like to drink their beer as well.
That's a loaded question.
Well, that's what this is all about.
Well, personally, I feel like my taste changed with the season. So if it's dark wintertime, I tend to gravitate towards those heavier, stronger beers. You know, I'm a big stout fan in the wintertime. Although I'll drink stout anytime, but you know, trying to find fun stouts, porters, Russian imperial stouts. Summertime, if I can get my hands on a genuine German Hefeweizen, I'll be drinking that. But we do base a lot of our travels on where you can get a good beer. And you know, I feel like Cole and I came of age in like the craft brewing renaissance, so I feel like we've been pretty lucky in growing up and now having our own business to have an amazing, I feel like it's the best time in America to be a beer drinker. And there's so many fun, innovative styles. We have a friend that actually has a brewery in Minnesota called Indeed. Great brewery on northwest Minneapolis side, and they're doing a lot of innovative sours and fruit beers. You know, we tend to be, I think our trips to Europe helped us kind of really hone in on that. We love German beers. So it's always fun to travel and see the innovation that's pushing the industry forward. Pushes us out of our comfort zone too.
Yeah, right.
You do some neat things here in the valley too. I know I've been at DeSoto Grill and you know, you got one of your beers on tap when I was there. And also, you like the the beer purveyor at Rebecca Farms when they had, there's a, I guess it's international.
The ski joint.
Yeah, well, the ski drawing, and so, you've got these events where it's a great place to feature your product.
Yeah, we've been lucky. We've been really well received by the Valley. We just distribute within Flathead, Lincoln, and Lake County, so kind of this northwest footprint. We're even in Glacier Park, which is a really great thing to be in Glacier Park lodges. So yeah, we try to be involved with the community as much, but it was really fun as skiers and lovers of winter to be a part of Rebecca Farms ski joring event, and we actually had a ski joring stout exclusively brewed for that event, and it was fun to go watch these incredible athletes compete on that course.
Yeah, that's a great sport. I'd never seen it until last year, I think it was, after having moved out here from North Carolina.
Rick's kind of into synchronized swimming. That's sort of what he follows. So it
Might be hard to drink beer while doing that, but now.
We'll pass on that.
Okay.
So, do you have some year-round beers that are always here?
You're looking at
Oh,
one, right?
okay. What is it that we're drinking here?
This is our Two-Ski Brewski Pilsner. A lot of our beers, for some reason, have ski-related names. I don't know if it's
I don't get that.
Yeah.
mine and Maggie's second passion, but we've got a Rope Toe Ale, Winter and Ducal. We have 5 beers that are always on tap, and then throughout the rest of the year, we sort of cycle through about 15 to 20 seasonals and one-offs.
Tell me a little bit about Two-Ski Brewski here. What is this, and what should we be tasting?
Okay, so it is a twice decocted mash that we brewed this with. So it's a Pilsner, brewed with 90-something% Pilsner malt, and primarily the aroma hop is Czech Saaz, so you should be tasting a lot of Saaz in there. It should taste a lot like a German Pils, or I guess maybe more accurately say what an American would imagine a German Pils to taste like.
Yeah.
It's a little more bitter than a traditional German Pilsner, to be sure. So you're going to taste sort of bready, doughy notes, sort of that spicy hops aroma you get from Saaz hops, and just sort of a pleasant balance of melanoidness, so malty notes besides just that bready, doughy note. You might just catch a hint of biscuit or maybe whatever bread crust tastes like, I guess you
Yeah.
could say.
That's exactly what I get.
And
The bread crust thing.
yeah, it's 5.2% alcohol. This is something that you can have more than one of and still go get in your car if
Right.
you're an adult male of average weight. I just want to put all those caveats in there. You probably are okay to drive after 2 of these if you've been sitting for a while.
Have you been sitting for a while? So is there a beer that you have not brewed yet that you are thinking about and dreaming about and working toward?
There's always something on the back burner that we're looking to do. Trying to fit one-offs in with our schedule of seasonal releases isn't always. It doesn't offer a ton of opportunities, so it's maybe once or twice a year that we're releasing something we've never done before. Sometimes a little more. We've got a smash, so a single malt and single hop IPA that we've actually brewed Pilsner malt like this and El Dorado hops that I'm really excited to be releasing in the next couple of weeks. So that'll be a new one-off.
And we have some barrels in the back. We've got some souring experiments.
Yeah, they're still not sour enough, so
Yeah.
we're waiting on those.
That seems to be like a hot thing right now.
Yeah.
Sours are kind of,
Sours
everybody
are
kind of talks about sours.
Fun. There's a little bit of, I feel like, magic
Yeah,
with sours. You gotta do a lot of waiting. There's a lot of
And
funkiness.
be very careful with it because of the bacteria too.
Yeah, the sours are in the way back.
Yeah, they're not near
way
anything.
back. Nowhere near the rest of the tanks, just because there's all sorts of bugs that you want in your sour you don't want in a beer like this. Or this. That's a good way to brew a pilsner.
So cleanliness is next to godliness in the brewery, right?
That's like your number one rule. It says, Cole says, you're just a glorified janitor when you accept the brewer title.
There's a lot of cleaning that goes into brewing. It's
Yeah.
mostly cleaning.
But the payoff is good. But yeah, we've got some old red wine barrels with our Junko, our Winterdean Junko. You know, we're just waiting patiently, but that's what I'm personally really excited about having coming down the pipe.
What's your production a year now?
In 2017, we put out about 800 barrels. Probably be
Oh,
over
this
there.
is really a boutique kind
Yeah,
of.
we don't produce a ton of beer, no.
Wow.
And we've got a 10-barrel brew house, so I guess they probably spin it about twice a week.
Wow, that's really something. Well, all good things must come to an end. I really appreciate the invitation. It's been fun. I was going to be mean and ask each one of you to tell me something that the other one didn't know about you, but I decided not to do that.
Oh, thanks. We do also share an office together, so at least you're keeping the peace around
I know,
here.
and I thought, well, yeah, we won't do that. So, but anyway, it's been fun, and we've learned a little bit about Kalispell Brewing and a little bit about your background, and it's been a great day. And with that, Texas Miss Lily, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for coming. Cheers.